Well, a very good evening to you all, race fans, and welcome to the grand finale of this season of the Alliance Sim Racing V8 Supercars series. It all comes down to tonight after 9 rounds of intense battles and incredible racing. This final round will crown the champion here for Season 5 at none other than Okayama International Circuit. On behalf of everyone here in the broadcast booth and behind the scenes at Simple Racing Broadcast, it's a pleasure to have you along once again tonight. And Alliance Sim Racing, of course, welcoming you all to this final round. My name is Jared Cole. In the booth beside me tonight, Josh Harris. And Josh, it has been a pretty intense 9 weeks of racing. It's all about to wrap up here tonight, and what an interesting track for a final round of this series.
Good evening, Jared. Thank you for having me back after a little week of leave last week. You're absolutely right. It is an exciting track. It's an interesting choice, as you said. Pretty tough here in a supercar, Jared. Lots of different corners across the track, but importantly, a couple of really tight corners, which probably aren't a supercar's best friend, but. 54 laps tonight. It's going to be one hell of a way to finish the season.
Yeah, absolutely. One race for 300 points for the winner, and of course, there's not a 0% chance that we're not going to see Wayne Walker take it tonight. There is an opportunity, but it does look pretty well sewn up. The conditions tonight absolutely beautiful here in Okayama. As you said, 54 laps, a 70% fuel capacity limit for tonight's race, and 2 compulsory pit stops means that there will be some pit strategy play into this tonight, I'm sure. The question will be whether we see much in the way of safety cars. This track is, look, for a good part of it, fairly wide. You can see some of the beautiful shots in the background showing just how much room there is to navigate in some parts of this track, but in others, as you said earlier, Josh, some very tight corners, and certainly not super suited to a V8 supercar. G'day, Matt Vanderkraan. Welcome to the chat, mate. It's a shame to not have you out on track this evening, but hey, that is the way it goes.
Jared, a couple of really interesting parts of this track too. There's a couple of corners where you can really run side by side with people, but some reasonably high speed stuff. It's going to be a battle for these guys tonight, and in a higher downforce car, maybe not as exciting, but in these Gen 3 supercars, a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll take a quick look at the points, then we might talk a little bit about the track layout we're racing on tonight. Wayne Walker, as we said, sits atop the leaderboard, 2,032 points for Accelerate Sim Racing. Scott Gamble technically still able to take this. He's on 1,899 points, but we've done a little bit of math. There's 300 points on offer for the winner, so the title fight is not completely dead yet. If Scott Gamble does win tonight, the scenario for Wayne Walker is pretty simple. He will need to finish in 18th or better to maintain that number 1 position in the championship. Look, it's not impossible, but I don't think we've seen Wayne Walker finish outside the top 10 all season. So you'd have to think that it's pretty close to wrapped up. That said, the podium is not entirely decided yet. Ken Latta and Mark Poynton have it all to play for tonight, with only 12 points separating them in the battle for the 3rd step. And of course, a number of other close fights right down that top 20 list in this championship. Plenty of points on offer tonight, Josh. It's a single race, so of course the full 300 points for the winner. And I think we'll see probably a little bit of movement in these standings before the night is out.
Yeah, definitely. A single 300-point race. There'll be people who move up and move down. Matt Vanderkraan not being here tonight is going to be a challenge for him. There's still a lot to play for. It might be an expectation that Wayne Walker's going to win, but there will be plenty of drivers out there who want to have a good result and get one more position or beat their teammate or something like that. So there's still a lot to play for, Jared.
Absolutely. As lone qualifying comes to an end in the background, we'll bring you the grid shortly. First of all, let's take a quick look at the layout here at the full circuit of Okayama. And of course, starting on the front straight, we go into the very imaginatively named first corner, a fast left through Williams, and then the Moss S into Atwood Curve. Probably the first opportunity these drivers will have to make an overtake. Hairpin at the end of that long straight, another opportunity, but you're not guaranteed to actually have the opportunity to maintain the pass if you do send it up the inside of Hairpin, of course, Josh, because those two left-handers immediately after give that opportunity back to the driver who is on the outside through Hairpin. And then, of course, these back-to-back hairpins of Redman and Hobbs just before you make it through the final two turns. Another couple of very, very awkward corners in just about any car, but V8 Supercar really going to take some throttle discipline for these guys to keep it straight.
Yeah, 100%. Hairpin offers an amazing opportunity to pass, but it's really built on a good run down the straight. If you try and put a dive on under brakes into Hairpin, usually you can get up beside, but then, like you said, there's two lefts immediately after it, and so we do see a lot of people have a crack under brakes, and then it typically doesn't work. We also see plenty of accidents with people trying to run too wide off the back of Hairpin. The run, I think it's the Moss S's from memory. I don't have corner names in front of me, Jared. The run, down towards that big, long, sweeping right. That's a lot of fun in a supercar as well. They don't particularly like that. And then that big, long right, kind of looks on a track map like an oversized hairpin. But I'm here to tell you that in the car, Jared, that corner just feels like it's never going to stop. And in one of these cars, is actually very, very difficult not to entirely destroy the rear left-hand corner. There's quite a little bit of tactic in V'ing that corner off and getting as square a drive as possible out of there.
Atwood Curve has brought so many drivers undone over the years that Okayama has been open, myself included a number of times, and it really is, as you say, it's a very technical corner. It does look like your fairly standard extended hairpin, I suppose we'd say, but the line that you need to take through there to get that run onto that main straight down the back, it's so tough to hit consistently, particularly when you're battling it out in traffic. It's very, very easy to run wide into the marbles that build up very quickly on the outside of that turn. And the smallest fraction of an error through Atwood really does put you at massive risk all the way down that back straight towards Hairpin. I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for drivers tonight, is making sure they nail that fourth turn over and over and over again.
Yeah, the other thing that makes this track really fun, Jared, is that it lends itself to defending. So you can actually run too wide through first corner, which then makes, if you're on the outside, if you're being passed into first corner, you can hang tough around the outside, and then that gives you the inside run into turn two. Similarly, like we talked about, you can defend through hairpin more easily than you would imagine. And then there's a bunch of corners that just really aren't passing opportunities in these cars. So I think that it makes it a lot of fun, because there are genuine passing opportunities. But even more than that, there is defending opportunities, which just makes it, just gives us some fantastic racing.
Yeah, it really does. And I think it's one of those ones that you see time and time and time again in terms of that run through 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So from Hairpin through Revolver and Piper and then into Redman and Hobbs, it's a very, very slow section of track, and you really hard on the accelerator, hard on the brake. A lot of opportunity to get it wrong, and not a lot of room to go side by side. So it does, as you said, lend itself a little to defending. But I don't know what we're going to see tonight, quite honestly. We're just about ready to get underway and bring you the grid. Welcome to the chat, Rebecca Clifton. Good to see you back supporting Team Accelerator once again this week. And we are getting pretty well ready here to get underway. Any predictions in the chat? Is it going to be Wayne Walker's championship, or is something catastrophic going to happen here? And is Scott Gamble going to steal it away at the death? I mean, you don't want to see it. At the same time, I kind of wouldn't mind the extra drama, but that's a broadcaster's viewpoint, Josh.
We're here for the drama, though, aren't we? Jared, it sounds very cliche, but if we take the championship battle out of it, 54 laps tonight is a long time. And really what I want to see is a fantastic race, regardless of who gets out and wins. I just hope that we get to see good battling all through the night, and that we don't end up in a position where we just have everyone spread out by 1.5 to 2 seconds between every car.
Yeah, sincerely hope not, and I guess we'll see soon enough, because the warm-up session is just coming to a close now. We're about ready to go racing. This is the grid for this final race of Season 5 of the Alliance Sim Racing V8 Supercars, brought to you by Quantum Tint Solutions and AA West Automotive in association with Nicol Photography and 24/7 Sim Services. Wayne Walker and Scott Gamble, the two top contenders right through this season, will take the front row ahead of Michael Stewart and Dean Logsdale. Jamie Dyke and Dan Hall take the third row ahead of Ken Latta and Mark Boynton. Then Stephen Varga and Chad Vigar round out your top 10. Rushworth and Mackay 11th and 12th ahead of Damon Fisher and Alistair Bales. Then Jamie McKnight and Luke Allman line up ahead of Mick Clifton and James Hardy. The 20 rounded out by Phil Manuel and Peter Sattler. We go a little further back. Rick Vigar and Troy Sipple start alongside each other on row number 11. That will be one worth watching into turn 1. Simon Farrington and Andrew Johnston behind them ahead of Craig Rose and Todd Martin. Then David Logsdale and Ashley Hall with Lorne McKee and Brad Grant rounding out your 30. Tonight, Tim Nicol and Tim Lawson in race control, and Mr. Harris turning some practice laps earlier. Look, you're going to show up there, but you're not getting in the car again tonight, I would hope.
Absolutely not. I do apologise for clicking the wrong button and appearing there, Jared. I did have a bit of fun out there though. It was good.
Just iRacing things. It's one of those things, isn't it? There we go. Clifton saying the podium between Gamble and Walker. Oh, look, I'd say that's a pretty safe bet. I'm not going to be offering huge odds on that. I reckon we've got about $1.01 on that one, don't we?
Yeah. Look, if you
honestly,
put any more on that, yeah.
I just pay even money on that. Honestly, I just put $1 on it. I'm not taking anyone's money on that one.
That's kind of where I was going, Jared. I think if you're putting more than that on it, you're probably a terrible bookmaker and not going to make much money.
No, probably not. But look, 54 laps is a long time. Anything can happen, and often does. We'll go down to the line and get ready to go racing here tonight at Okayama as the drivers make their way to the grid. We are probably about 30 seconds or so away from being in the starters' hands here this evening. And a full crowd turning out for the race here to end the season. I'm keeping my eyes very, very firmly on P21 and P22, 11 rows back. Troy Sipple and Rick Vigar, we see these guys battle it out so often. It's always good fun to watch, and I suspect that lap 1 here will be absolutely no exception tonight.
No, that's fair. Ken also confirmed, Jared, that I do understand exactly what the back of Vargas' car looks like after tonight. There's a bit of a story there, and hopefully for Rick and Troy, they managed to do a better job of avoiding each other than I did when I jumped in the car.
Well, let's see how it goes. We are getting the green flag from the back of the pack. We are getting ready to go racing here, ladies and gentlemen. Sit back, relax, take it all in. We'll be on the edge of our seats up here in the booth as the lights come up and the engines rev. We are green for the final race of this season, and a woeful start from Scott Gamble sees him drop immediately down through the order as we make our way into turn 1 for the first time. Great stuff, Joe Dyke. Absolutely. We get through first corner fairly cleanly. A few cars having to run very wide, and we can see off into the side there alongside Alistair Bales is Jamie McKnight starting to make his way through the order where he can. Looking for Scott Gamble. He's back in 8th now. Wayne Walker out in front with quite some room to play with already as they head into Atwood for the first time. The racing order starting to develop, but getting into single file, getting ready for that run down the back straight for the first time towards hairpin. And you can see immediately people starting to think about some moves, setting up for a bit of action as we come down to hairpin. Watch this one closely, because I reckon there'll be some early dives here. Big lockup, almost contact there as the drivers get into the cold tyres. But we are underway fairly comfortably, all things considered, Josh, and I think probably about the cleanest start we could have hoped for here for the first half lap of Okayama.
Yeah, absolutely. The guys have pretty calmly settled into their race, their race pace, and very quickly formed a pretty orderly line. But as I
Rick
said, that there is
Vigar
someone
facing the wrong way.
I was just going to say, there's someone in the background that is
not
tumbling down the order.
It's
Hardy?
not Rick. It might be James Hardy. It
believe
was.
that-
I think
do
Vigar
believe
might
that
have
is
got caught
James
up in it. Not quite sure what's happened there, but we'll go back and we'll take a look. Of course.
Yeah, and look, outside of that, Jared, pretty nice start, to be honest.
Yeah, this is the first of the packs that's already starting to form here. Really from Mick Clifton in 17th, just back through the order a little. Stipple, Manuel, Vigar, and Farrington all in it as one of the Team JR cars runs off the background. That's Andrew Johnston, who got a very unceremoniously punted by former teammate Dean Logsdale in the practice session. Not intentionally, of course. Just one of those things that happens when everyone's trying to find a little bit of time. Scott Mackay from Evolution Racing Team finds himself down in 13th and holding off an attack from Luke Allman, the Team AJR driver, who'll be on the outside, won't be alongside far enough to challenge coming out of the hairpin. But surrounded by Team AJR cars right now, Mackay needs to keep his wits about him to not get blocked out through this section.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a wonderful move, and lap 2 of a 54-lap race. Probably a couple of people who aren't fighting all that hard at the moment, Jared. But certainly, there's so long in these sort of races that it's important to make sure that you preserve yourself as well. And even if someone puts a bit of a cheeky move on, you let them have it, and you immediately settle in and try and grab it back.
Ken Latta picked up the dubious distinction of first slowdown of the day.
In those last 2 corners, Jared, it is so easy to get the second last corner to be fast through there. You need to cut it as much as possible, and the difference between cutting it too much and cutting it just enough is really quite minuscule.
It's millimetre perfect, isn't it?
Ken Latta might be the first. It genuinely is, and Ken Latta might be the first to get a slowdown tonight, but he will not be the last. There's just no doubt about that.
No, absolutely guaranteed we'll see more. Scott Gamble will be thinking about a move here and Mark Poynton. I don't know if he's got quite enough of a run, and Poynton just holds his line. Gamble's going to go with him through hairpin. You can see right on the tail of that Frog Leap Juiced Racing entry of Poynton's. And all these drivers just starting to settle in. We'll go back and take a look and see just what happened to James Hardy and if there was any contact worth mentioning. So keep your eye on Hardy here. You can see him just poking the nose up the inside. James McKnight just up ahead. Does he just overcook it? Yeah, look, a little assistance when he was already on his way around, but I don't think Hardy was going to do anything short of spinning that one at that point. So gets it going again. Cold tyres first couple of laps. It's to be expected. I'm honestly surprised that there haven't been more drivers sliding off track in these early stages of the race.
I can confirm that Hardy did call that in, and Race Control have just come back, Jared. So there's no further action.
To a terrible rejoin from Craig Rose. There's going to be more action there. Yeah, absolutely. Craig Rose rejoins the track and
written all over it.
Wipes Ashley Hall out. I don't know if he didn't see him coming or what the story was there, but we've just cut to that as it's happened. So I'm sure we'll be hearing more. Let's jump a little bit further up through the field to this battle with Phil Manuel being followed by Simon Farrington, Peter Sattler, Rick Vigar, all in it as well. And Lorne McKee finds himself moving up through the field after a not especially promising qualifying session, starting back in P31, but up into 23rd already, so taking advantage of every opportunity he's managed to find. A little bit of a gap opening up here as we see Vigar going through on Peter Sattler. And being teammates, shouldn't be too much battling for that one, I'm sure.
You'd hope not.
You'd hope not, but stranger things have happened. It is the final round. Maybe it's an anything goes kind of moment. We take a look a bit further forward now. Andrew Rushworth on the tail of Stephen Varga as they make their way out of the twin hairpins. Can we call them hairpins, Josh? I think we have to, don't we? I don't know what else you'd call those turns.
Yeah, definitely. No, definitely. Yeah, they are. There's no doubt about it. They're not quite hairpins, but gee, they're close enough.
You certainly feel like it when you go through them, particularly in a supercar. You're going so slow.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely you are. And very, very delicate balancing act on both the pedals, making sure that you don't get the thing too excited, but that you do get the drive off the corner that you need. They are a challenging couple of corners, and you always feel like you're just going too slow. It's a pretty frustrating part of the world. There's no doubt about that.
And there's always that temptation, of course, because you know these cars are capable of so much quicker. Always that temptation to just try and get a little bit more out of them, and that's where people start to go wrong and end up just lighting the rears up, cooking the tyres and burning off speed for the next couple of laps while they recover. It's really, really hard to drive fast cars slow. There's no two ways to put it. And these cars love to be opened up, and there's just not a lot of opportunity to do it. At a course that throws so many slow corners at you like Okayama, it will be a real test for the drivers tonight. We take a look a bit further forward. This is the battle going on for second right now. Dean Logsdale holding it relatively comfortably at this stage, ahead of Jamie Dyke, Michael Stewart and Dan Hall. But I dare say none of these drivers really looking to push too hard at the moment. Jamie Dyke in particular, I would bet, is planning a fuel saving strategy. We know he loves to do it, and has proven time and time again that he can get it nailed pretty consistently when he wants to. I would almost bet better money on this that's what we're seeing from Jamie Dyke here, because he's not putting Logsdale under any pressure at all right now.
No, he's not. But we'll just wait and see. 18 laps around here on a stint. It's a decent length stint. Jared, and that's even if you split it neatly into thirds. There'll no doubt be some people that plan to do a few other, sneaky strategies. And it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Jamie Dyke trying to save a bit of fuel now, as you said, in the hope of something like a safety car, and he'll have a couple of different strategy options in the back of his mind.
Well, McKee gets the pass done on Peter Sattler coming out of upward curve, but Sattler stays with him all the way down the straight. They're going to be side by side into hairpin. McKee has the advantage. Just a little later on the brakes, Sattler is going to drop in behind here. Thinks about the over-under, but he ends up back on the outside. And McKee takes that position up into 22nd, up 9 places now. We jump further forward to Mark Poynton, who still continues to hold off Scott Gamble by only a few tenths. Hasn't really changed so far across these first 6 laps of tonight's race. And I dare say both these drivers will be just looking to settle in a bit further, although Gamble has a really, really good run there out of last corner. He's going to think about a move into first. Don't think he's quite going to get there, but is he setting up here for upward curve? And this is what you've got to think about with these Gen 3s. They're not great for overtaking at any kind of pace. You really do need those braking opportunities. Not to say it's impossible, but certainly a lot easier when you get it done under brakes. And this is the first real opportunity that Okayama offers out of the Moss S and coming down to upward. Gamble not close enough to capitalise this time around. Going to have to get a good exit here to try and set up the hairpin if he wants to take the P6 from Mark Poynton.
Yeah, absolutely the best opportunity for passing on this track is to get a really, really good run through Atwood and actually have the run down the back straight into hairpin. But as you can see there, Poynton was actually able to pull away from Gamble through Atwood and down the straight. So quite the opposite of what Scotty Gamble needed. But like I said in pre-race, Jared, actually trying to get the job done entirely under brakes into hairpin usually doesn't go well in these cars, and it's really a long manoeuvre here. It's a good run through the Moss S to set you up for Atwood to allow you to get the good run down the back straight.
With this little group further back, the battle for 20th, Rick Vigar comfortable at the moment. Lon McKee really looking to get the move done on Simon Farrington if he can. Farrington not defending particularly hard, just taking his line through there, and it is a very, very tough spot to try and get anything done, even if McKee does have the pace required. He's going to have to really work to find it. Runs very wide on the exit. That's going to compromise his pace down the straight. You can already see that gap starting to open up to Farrington in front. Maybe bringing Peter Sattler in with an opportunity here if he's not careful.
It is one of those tracks, Jared, where you can really, make a couple of small mistakes and bring someone into your race. There's a lot of effort here put into making sure that you drive as cleanly as possible. Like you said earlier, Atwood Curve, for example, so easy to run wide. And once you've run wide, that's it. It's all over. The straight is so long off the back of it that you just watch the people absolutely drive closer and closer and closer.
This front group really starting to bunch up now a little behind Dean Logsdale. Not that Logsdale is running too far off the pace, mind you. Wayne Walker continues to demonstrate that he has absolute championship winning pace out in front, opening the gap up now to almost 2.5 seconds. But the lineup of cars behind Logsdale, you can see just getting longer as these laps go by. He's got Jamie Dyke, Michael Stewart, Dan Hallmark, Point, and Scott Gamble. Ken Latta now joins in at the back. Stephen Varga find himself in a little bit of no man's land for probably the first time this race. And so he'll be looking to tack onto the back of this as well. And you see Dyke running wide and just dipping a tyre into the dirt there. Gives you an idea of just how hard these guys are pushing. That final turn, it's deceptive, isn't it, Josh? You really can't run it quite as quickly as you feel like you should be able to. I don't know if it's just me that I haven't found the right line through it, but it's one that I just can't quite seem to find the pace that I'm sure is there, but you end up just running wide if you push too hard. Yeah, the second last and the last corner, Jared, are both a bit odd. The last one in particular, though, suckers you into thinking that you're going to be able to take it a lot faster. I actually found when I first learnt this track that there was so many times where I thought that I was good and then just ended up wide, and then after that found myself going through there very slow. It actually took a long time, Jared, to get my head around exactly how the line works for that last corner. And like you said, you slow up so much. You always feel like you have slowed up so early for that corner. But it's also early throttle to be able to drive the whole way through it and use up all of the exit. If you're not early on the throttle, you very much feel like you've wasted an opportunity because you give up room on the outside. And of course, if you give up room on the outside of the corner, that means that you haven't gone through it fast enough. Yeah, fine line, of course, between fast enough and too much. Scott Gamble just has a look up the inside, just a little peak for the moment. Michael Stewart doing the same to Jamie Dyke out in front of his pack. Again, Dyke he's not even trying to stick with Dean Logsdale at the moment. He's just running his own race. He's got a very, very distinct plan in mind, I'm pretty sure. And we are starting to see this unfold here. Matt Vanderkraan chipping in the chat. Wayne has absolutely been untouchable this season. He is an amazing driver and cannot echo that more. In a field of such fast drivers, to have dominated the way that Wayne Walker has this season it's pretty hard to fathom that anyone can be this much quicker than this group of drivers. I know, look, Matty himself in the chat there, the first few seasons that we covered here with ASR, Josh, he was demonstrating something similar, but it wasn't, with no disrespect to the field at the time, it wasn't the level of competition that you see now as all of these drivers have started to settle into this car and really start to learn some of the handling quirks over the previous generation that all of these drivers are so used to racing. After enough laps turned, the level that these drivers actually put these cars at is just it goes up a few notches, and we've seen that this season. Even so, Wayne Walker continues to just dominate it.
Yeah, it's like Wayne Walker is mind-bendingly fast. I jumped in the car tonight, Jared. I did the fastest lap I've ever done around here in a supercar. The race that I did here in a supercar a couple of weeks ago was on an incredibly hot track, whereas tonight conditions are absolutely beautiful. But nonetheless, I immediately did the fastest lap around here that I've ever done, and was still some 1.6 or 1.7 seconds off Wayne Walker's pace, which is, just phenomenal. I certainly don't consider myself to be fast, Jared, but I certainly don't consider myself to be, slow or, not able to drive these cars. I do really enjoy them. Pretty demoralising though to go out there on a fixed set and just be over 1.5 seconds off the pace, having done my fastest ever lap of the track. That's a big kick in the guts, to be honest.
Bit of a moment there for Jamie McKnight, just having to pull it up to avoid running into the back of Luke Allman, who is just heading up this battle for the 14th. And this is the thing, right? A fixed setup means that you really don't have that excuse of, they've tweaked the car just a little bit better for this track. Everyone's running the same setups, which means, it is absolutely the only thing you've got available to you is a bit of brake balance and driver mod. That's it.
Yeah, the flip side of that argument, Jared, is that these cars require such a fine touch that often we run very different setups. So myself and my teammate, we're reasonably close in pace, but we actually set our cars up totally different because we extract. Wow, Jamie McKnight there has absolutely had a run through what looks to be...
That was first corner through there.
That was first corner, yeah. Yeah, that's a fantastic run. We'll see what he can do now on the way down to Atwood as we do sit on the boot of Allman's car, Luke Allman's car. And we just see here, Jamie, there you go. So there's that mistake you talk about, Jared. Allman got in there a little bit deep, and that shows you the pace differential between the inside line and the outside line. He's immediately lost, 3 positions. And probably the better part of a second to Jamie McKnight by having one bad run through that one corner.
Yeah, Atwood curve. It's a nemesis moment for me. I struggle so much with that turn. I really do.
It's a lot of fun though.
Oh, it's a lot of fun.
It's a really fun corner,
especially if you've got a car where you can really control the slip angle and just slide through a fair chunk of it. It's not the fastest way around. But it's, it's just my little bit of tribute to Japanese motor racing heritage. Bit of drifting, That's the excuse I use.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that either, Jared. Just back quickly to what I was saying before. A lot of us drive these cars set up so differently, Jared. So, yes, you make a really good point. Fixed setup means that, everyone has the same thing to deal with. The flip side to that argument is that by everyone having to drive a flip side, there will be people who are just slower than they would otherwise be if they could tweak their setups, because the setup that's been provided works for one person's driving style and not another's. And obviously, rightly or wrongly, I'm certainly not here to judge. There are huge advantages to talks Wayne Walker's language.
Yeah, it is always surprising to see someone run that much faster with a fixed setup though. And Jamie McKnight, to his credit, builds all of the setups for this series and others. And even as the setup builder, he's sitting mid-pack at the moment in 14th. I mean, it gives you a real feel for just how much difference there is in the way that each of these drivers actually approach the handling of these cars. And on their day with an open setup, all of them fairly well matched, I would say. But with a fixed setup, you've really got to be able to adapt your driving style and work with it. And some drivers have just pulled that off better than others. Dean Logsdale right now is a great example of that, just starting to open up a bit of gap. And again, I'll preface that or caveat that by saying Jamie Dyke, I don't believe, is running at his full pace right now. I'm maintaining that. We've seen it so many times that I can't possibly believe that Jamie Dyke's actually running full noise. And I kind of wonder if the rest of the pack behind him know that as well and are thinking about just following his lead to try and get the best run they can out of these couple of tanks of fuel.
I'll tell you what, Jared, Jamie Dyke is very, very good at worst. He's very, very good at being able to consistently drive at a pace where he doesn't get past. So he is holding that gap back to Stewart exactly where he wants, I expect. It's a huge skill to be able to do that. So, you know, not to make a mistake and give someone a look in through the door, you know, be able to balance that gap right where you want it. So, you know, Jamie's on a fuel-saving mission, we think, and, you know, he's just holding the cars behind him exactly where he wants. It's actually quite impressive to see.
Yeah, Scott Mackay's just had a big moment. Let's go back and see if we can pick up where this all started. Pretty much out on his own at this point. Not a lot of pressure as he enters hairpin. A lot of debris on the track though, and I wonder if that's contributed a little bit. You see the car just gets very, very loose out into the kitty litter. Has to try and just keep it moving across that, and then he's had to just sort of sit and wait a little bit till he gets a break in traffic. Now, whether there's been some sort of other issue go on there, I'm not sure. But back out into it, thankfully picks a reasonable spot, but he's dropped down a fair few spots now into 23rd.
I wonder if that was some sort of a hardware issue, Jared, the need to reset a wheelbase or something like that.
It did look a bit weird, didn't it?
Yeah, like a big off track. And then pulled up on that escape road and looked to me like he was waiting for a gap in traffic. But then whilst he rejoined safely, he rejoined right next to a car, which doesn't tend to be what I think of when I think of... No, so that feels very pull off the track, reset your wheelbase, get going again, as we see here.
Alistair Bales just running wide there as well.
Alistair Bales having a moment. Yeah, big moment too.
And not surprising, that corner, another one of those really difficult ones that feels like you should be able to go a lot faster than you actually can through it. And it doesn't take much of an overstep there to wind up in that rather large gravel trap on the right. And you end up dragging a huge amount of gravel back onto the track, as you saw through there. Lots and lots of debris.
It is a hallmark of this track. Just about every corner has gravel on the outside of it. And so, yeah, look, by the time that you're 15, 20 minutes into a race here, it's you are wondering whether you should be... Yeah, I was going to say, you're really wondering whether you should be driving one of these things or a traffic track, to be honest.
I mean, either way, it's a bit of fun, ultimately. Peter Sattler in 21st, just sticking with Paul McKee at the moment. McKee goes very, very wide on the exit, has to come back across before they make their way towards the Moss S. Season 6 for the Alliance Sim Racing V8 Supercar Series kicks off later this year. Not a great deal of time. Late September, we'll see this one back for Season 6. I believe entries still open for that at the moment. A couple of spots left. If you're interested, do shoot an email through to Alliance Sim Racing. It's in the YouTube description. Get in touch there and they'll be able to get you a link to the Discord and get you joining on in. And Mr. Harris, I believe you've got some plans around Season 6.
Look, they are early plans, but I heard that Ryan Palmer did a fantastic job last week, and in the commentary booth, that is, and there may have been some initial inquiries, Jared, about an 80 HD car running ASR and being shared by Ryan and I. So for those who don't know, I do a large amount of travel for my work, and so I can't race every week because I'm just not at home. A lot of the time that I'm commentating, I'm in a hotel room doing it remotely. And so I sort of had a chat to Ryan, one of my teammates, a couple of days ago, and you know, I've looked at this ASR field, and look, the reality is that I would be in the teens every week, but I thought that it might be a bit of fun to come out and race, Jared. But I can't do it every week, and I certainly don't want to leave you in the lurch either. So I thought, what better way? I have inquired about whether ASR would be happy to have one car, you know, or certainly have us race, you know, each driver only doing 5 rounds. I certainly don't want to get in the way of anyone's championship or anything like that. But there's some early talks, and The pink, white, and blue of ADHD Racing may yet make its ASR debut.
And I've got to say, it's probably fortunate you've held off till now, because when you look at not just the standard of driving, but the standard of liveries in this pack, I think it's only now that ADHD have finally achieved a livery that would be justified in being on the grid with these, I'll be honest.
Look, to be fair, Jared, there's a couple of things that have happened there. Number one, we've decided that maybe we should take our racing a little bit seriously. And number two, someone came along and said that they'd be happy to pay for our liveries if we put their logo on the car. And I'm pretty happy to do just about anything for the things that I would do
the
for
old
$50
$20 is $20 thing, hey?
I couldn't agree more, Jared. So yeah, no. When someone said they were happy to pay for liveries, I was happy to get a little bit more serious.
Starting to see the first of these pit stops happening throughout a pretty good portion of the field now. Gamble, Varga, Fisher, and Troy Sippel all in the pits at the moment. Ken Latta and Chad Vigar have both taken their first pit stop, as has James Hardy. Andrew Johnston taking one back on lap 2. I don't know that was necessarily a planned stop so much as it was a response to perhaps a little bit of damage picked up early on. But the field still finding itself in a few little packs around the place. Lon McKee and Peter Sattler seem unable to separate themselves now, but Lon McKee gets a pretty good run if he can stick with Simon Farrington. This might be the opportunity he's waiting for when he does get to hairpin. Farrington just holds his line. McKee has a big look up the inside, trying to bait Farrington into responding. Farrington just holds the line, and McKee's not going to get it done this time around. Peter Sattler really taking advantage of that and just gaining a little bit of time to the back of Lon McKee's car.
I'm just looking, Jared. I've just heard, I believe that it was 229 that I heard. Have we got a 229 tonight? I don't think we do.
It's car number 29. Yeah, there's 269, which is Ken Latta.
Someone has been pinned for a pit lane infringement.
Interesting. Well, if we look at the
269 has done a pit.
Yep, so that would be Ken Latta. Let's see if we can find out what's happened there. Of course, the rules are fairly specific around what you are able to do in terms of the lanes that you take. Let's take a look at Ken Latta's pit here.
Oh, that looks like to me, Jared, that is a long transit in the slow lane, and I would expect that is what Ken has unfortunately been picked up for doing.
Yeah, you do need to transit in that outer lane right up until, well, pretty much at your bay. More or less is the safest way to consider it each time. Jamie Dyke and Michael Stewart remain out in front with Dan Hall after some of those cars have peeled off for their pit stop. And at this stage, all looking pretty comfortable. I think, Jamie Dyke still just continuing to lap fairly close to the times. We've seen Dean Logsdale now come in for his stop, as just Jamie Dyke behind, and Dan Hall follows. Michael Stewart decides to stay out for 9.5 Sim Sport and makes his way out into the current lead. Mark Poynton has picked up a black flag. Now, what's happened there?
Ooh, that may be an iRacing black flag, Jared,
that
because I haven't heard anything. Mark Poynton, I wonder whether poor old Mark Poynton, because he is just out of the pits, has he up a speeding infringement.
Entirely possible. We'll see if we can catch maybe his entry and see if he came in at a bit more pace than he should have. Let's take a look. Mark Poynton here on the way just out of those hairpins and then enters the pit lane. Let's see if there's a lock-up of brakes here or anything that tells us he might have been just overcooking it a bit on the way in. Looks to be
honestly,
okay.
That looks
there.
quite good to me.
Yeah.
Could have been on exit.
Could have been, and we'll jump ahead and have a look at that. So gets the pit stop done. See him fire the motor up. Going to drop off the jacks there. Just go a little bit early here. Watch the nose. Oh, looks like it could have been. just enough. I reckon
It was very, very close. And one thing I do know, Jared, is that on any of the pit lane exits in racing, you really can pretty easily make a mistake.
Yeah, worth waiting till that cone is well and truly past the back of the car before you get back out there. So that'll be, what will that be? Probably a stop and hold, I would say, for pit lane speeding.
Yeah, and a bad one too.
Yeah,
like 40 seconds.
It'll be long.
And can confirm, actually, now that I think about it and actually engage my brain, Jared.
Big ask, I know, on a Tuesday night.
Yeah, look, it's been a long couple of weeks. If you get done for speeding on pit entry, you serve that 40-second stop and hold during a pit stop. So if it is a pit lane speeding infringement that
Absolutely
has held, it would be an exit.
Yep. Which adds up as we see Pointon on his way in now to serve that, and we'll probably see him sit in the pit box for about 40 seconds, which is pretty brutal. And we'll see him a long way down in the field. So unfortunate for Mark Pointon, effectively counts him out, you would imagine, of a top 10 finish here tonight. We see Logsdale and Dyke out on those fresh tyres start to try and reel in Wayne Walker a little bit, who meanwhile has just set the fastest lap just under a 32, a 31.96. So finding more and more pace as more rubber gets laid down on this track here tonight. The other way to get involved, of course, racing with Alliance Sim Racing, if you haven't already seen it, is of course the Alliance Sim Racing Endurance Championship. And round 3, the final round for this year, takes place on September 21st, when the Endurance Championship heads to the most iconic race of them all. That's right, folks, it is the Bathurst 1000. It'll be a full day of strategy, endurance and survival on what must be the toughest track in Australia. Teams will be battling the walls, the weather and of course each other in the race that every driver wants to win. Don't miss out. The Bathurst 1000, September 21st, will be live right here, brought to you by Simple Racing Broadcast, and of course still an opportunity to get signed up for that. I don't think we've got a full entry list just yet, so if it's something you might be keen on, get in touch. alliancesimracingaustralia@gmail.com. Check the email address below in the description. It's not far off now, Josh. 3 weeks of Bathurst 1000. It's something I've been pretty keen to cover for a little while, and it's finally happening. I'm always excited to see what the mountain brings.
There's no better place to race these cars, Jared, going to their spiritual home. It's also an absolutely fantastic track and a genuine challenge. Every single lap is a genuine challenge. Plenty of walls, plenty of elevation. It's going to be fantastic. I think I'm going to come along for an hour or so and talk some utter garbage like I usually do, and it's going to be a lot of fun, to be honest, to see what's going on. You know, if anyone can do it, it's going to be these guys.
Ken Ladder finds himself in the wall. See how bad the damage is. It doesn't look great for Ladder's car.
Pretty bad.
That's
right up there. Ladder has reported that too, so I would presume that he has had a little bit of assistance off the back of Hairpin, maybe going for a bit of a passing manoeuvre that just hasn't worked well. And really, as you see, they're having to use the clutch. Yeah, he's having to use the clutch to try and make that car go where he wants it. He is genuinely a rolling hazard at the moment because he has very, very limited control of that car and having to pull up. Dear.
That's what happened. Lorne McKee gets caught up in that, and that was always a risk. Ken Ladder did his best to stay out of the way while the traffic came through, but unfortunately it's ended up with a pretty significant little moment there for, I think that was Troy Sipple and Lorne McKee coming together. We'll go back first of all and take a look and see what's happened with Ken Ladder.
And I would love to go on board with Lorne McKee, Jared, and just give everyone at home a sense of how. Big
bit of assistance there from, I think that's Michael Stewart by the look of things coming through. I could be wrong, mind you, but was certainly one of the 95 SimSport cars that gave Ladder just a little bit of a nudge there. Go back live, and that does look like the offender. So Stewart probably going to pick up a bit of a time penalty for that one. Let's go on board though with Lon McKee and see if we can get a bit of a view from his cockpit of just what that one looked like as they came towards the twin hairpins. You can see McKee looking at the back of Sips here. Now at this point he's
really
watching
interested to see. Yeah, absolutely. That's what's happened. He's been tucked up in, and by the time that he has pulled out from behind Sips, he had no idea that there was a car parked there.
No, and look, did pretty well to get it pulled up, and obviously sitting there redressing. You can see, I think that's Craig Rose who's also been caught up in that. Now, whether that's related, I think he's passed Ken Ladder. No, he hasn't. So he's just managed to turn it all on his own there. So nothing in that, but yeah, bit of a mess, and there's not a lot of room to manoeuvre through there.
One thing that I'll fill everyone in on at home, Jared, something that I picked up on the Race Control channel. Sips jumped on the radio after that little incident and asked for Race Control to look at it. And I'll tell you what, I don't know how he's done it, but he has got the loudest sound system ever installed in that supercar of his, because it was hard to distinguish the sound of his voice over the tunes that were absolutely pumping in the background. So he is having a ball on this final night of season 4.
So just to clarify,
I think it was season 4, Joe?
Season 5, mate. Season 5.
Season 5. Goodness me. Yeah.
Rebecca Clifton asks, why no safety car? Look, I suspect because all of those drivers are able to get the cars moving again, a safety car wasn't called out there. But yeah, it would have been close, I reckon. It would have been very, very close to that. I'm honestly a little surprised, and it's not something you see often, but I'm almost a little surprised that Ladder wasn't told to park it and tow it. Because he was an absolute hazard, the way that car was.
He was. It was, look, this is one of those things where, as a driver, I really come back to the way that we make so many decisions in race cars so quickly, Jared, that absolutely no malice there from Ken. In fact, quite the opposite. He thought he was doing the right thing, and unfortunately ended up probably a little bit further to the right than he would have liked to have been, probably a little bit closer to the corner than he would like to have been. All of those things factor, and of course, Race Control wouldn't have even got a chance to call it out before all of that carnage had happened. Thankfully, I don't believe that Sips took a huge amount of damage. Lon McKee's back behind him. For those guys, just a disappointing circumstance. And for Ken, things just going from bad to worse. First he got turned, and then I'm sure that he'll feel pretty disappointed about the fact that his car probably affected things.
This is the thing though, right? It's all about those quick decisions. If he had looked at the relative 5 seconds earlier, seen the pack of cars coming and decided to get over to the side and stop, he would have been fine, would have been clear. If he had made that decision 3 seconds earlier instead of 5, I reckon Lon McKee would have pulled out to make that pass right into the back of Ken Ladder.
Yep.
So
all of those things. All of those things. There's no right answer, right? Like there's always, you would always be able to find a better way. It's worth noting Michael Stewart has been given a drive-through penalty for that incident with
Ken Ladder. Yep, not surprised to see that. But it's just the way racing goes sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's the same with Ken parking up and the incident with Sips and that. There's probably the only perfect answer really, Jared, is that when he was already off the track he would have asked to tow, but I also understand as a driver myself, you don't want to tow. The other thing about this series is 99% of the time when someone asks to tow, there's a safety car, and drivers do everything that they can to not bring a safety car out.
Yeah, which is, it's really, them trying to keep the race moving for the rest of the drivers, which is, it's well intentioned, and I can't argue with Ladder for taking that approach.
Mistakes happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Mistakes happen.
Absolutely, and for every other bit of that attempt to get back to pit lane, he had the car moving, and would have been back in pit lane getting repairs quicker than if he had towed. You see Lorne McKee is now going to have another crack at this. Looks up the inside of Sipple. No car there this time. Puts the nose in. Sips has to run wide. McKee needs to get back across and cover that inside line though. Troy Sipple threatening. McKee leaving the door just ever so slightly ajar. Not quite enough for Troy Sipple to take a leap there, and probably for the best, because it wouldn't have ended well. There's not enough room for that here at Okayama. Lorne McKee picks up at position 21 and now sets his sights on Phil Manuel just up the road. No worries at all, Rebecca. Happy to talk through it. And look, I can't promise that what we're going to give you is the perfect interpretation of any rule set, but we'll try and give you a bit of an idea as to why things may or may not happen. Have a look at Scott Mackay all over the back of Vicar.
And doing a really good job, by the way. Not having probably the race that he would have loved to have, but really putting in a bit of effort. And here we go. So this is what I was talking about, Jared. Great move here by Poynton. So he has put the work in. He got the run down the long straight, and by the time that he was at the back of Farrington, by the time that he was at the braking zone, he was right at the back of Farrington. He didn't have to make that move entirely in the braking zone, and he has done an absolutely fantastic job there of what is a tough place to pass. Everyone brakes so late there. You've really got to pull something out a little bit special to get that pass done.
You certainly do. Michael Stewart's come back out after his drive-through, and now right on the back of Stephen Varga. He's going to be looking for a pass into Atwood, you'd have to think. Let's jump on board and get a view of this. This will give you an idea of the run down through the Moss S's. It's a fairly, honestly, you almost treat this as a straight. It's only the very slightest of moves left to right, but it's one that you do need to set up the exit from properly for Atwood.
Big slide there for Vargs. I think there's every chance that Stewart's got to run here, although he did just have a little bit of a moment himself. Such a hard corner there, Jared, and you're always desperate to get on the gas, but not this time. Stewart will tuck in and he'll work to keep moving forward. We know that Stewart's been quick tonight, and he will be frustrated at the mistake that he's made that's put him down the back. Are we going to see here a pass up into the first of these hairpins? He thinks about it. Probably a good choice there to fall into a really difficult corner to get it done at, but Michael Stewart has a ton of pace over Vargs at the moment.
He absolutely does, as we get just a little bit past the halfway point of this final race of Season 5, and all the drivers trying to pick up those last few points, maybe grab a last-minute jump in position up to a slightly higher championship standing. Wayne Walker out in front. I can't say I see it happening for Scott Gamble tonight as he sits in 5th. He's recovered reasonably well and managed to hold on after what was a pretty shocking start by his standards. But Wayne Walker is going to need to pretty epically get it wrong if there is something to be had here for Scott Gamble.
Huge news, Jared. Lorne McKee has been given a black flag for taking out Sips, which is probably one of the tougher calls that I've seen come through for the race control here. ASR's race control notoriously strict. They don't muck around. They are happy to hand out drive-through penalties, and we see things like the rules around the pit lane. There is a number of reasonably strict rules you've got to race to here at ASR. But having said that, probably a little bit surprised to see to see Lorne McKee there nailed for that one, given that there was a car parked in the middle of the track. But nonetheless, it's been handed out. It's a drive-through. You can't argue a drive-through at all. So he will serve that and get back about racing, I guess.
Yeah, look, on the one hand, I can see the part that Ladder's car played in that. On the other, when we watched it on board, I don't know that there wasn't... I don't know that Ladder was far enough over that it made it absolutely impossible for McKee to have pulled it up. And I think, given how late he put that move on, that's probably contributed to the decision here that he was possibly never going to pull it up in time to make that corner without clattering into Troy Sipple. Maybe one we can go back and have another look at, but yeah, I'm a little in two minds about it. I don't disagree with you. It's a fair chunk of penalty, but the size of the penalty generally dictated by the nature of the incident rather than the outcome.
Yeah, look, I don't know, Jared. I guess is where I'm at with this. It seems odd to me. I think that Ladder's car really did influence it, and I fully agree with you, Jared, that there's this world where was Lorne McKee able to avoid it even with the car there? And of course he was, right? We watch it on board, and yes, he can. We see here, I know there's a car up there, so I look on the exit here, yeah, there's a car parked on the corner up there, and then he moves out here, and you see that he's tucked in to the right. To the left. He's actually tucked in behind Ladder's car for quite a while before he realises that it's not moving at all. And I think that it was one of those things where, like I said just a couple of minutes ago, these guys are making so many decisions all the time. And I reckon that's just one where, he's moved out to the left. Everything's going fine. And then, he's looking at a million other different things, Jared, and all of a sudden it clicks to him that Ladder's car is actually not moving. And he's got to go back to the right. And by the time that he has to do that, it's all over. And, could he have done it? My mind immediately, Jared, goes back to the movie Miracle on the Hudson, I think it's called, about that flight that crashed into the Hudson River, and they were in the courthouse, and they kept on saying you could have got, Sully, exactly right. You could have got back to the airport. You could have got back to the airport, and he says, but when you're running those simulations, you already know that you're going to hit the geese, and as soon as you hit them, you turn around. Yeah. We didn't know that we were going to hit them. We had to make all these decisions, and I think this is one of those cases. Very easy for us to sit here and be like, oh, there's a car sitting up there. You move out to the left, you see the car sitting up there, you move back to the right. But when you're in the car and you're making all those decisions on the fly, I think he just hasn't realised that the car was literally stopped dead.
And the hindsight that we get and the various camera angles that we get up in the comms booth are a little more informative than what you get looking out through the windshield of a Gen 3 supercar, that's for sure.
Couldn't agree more. It's far easier to throw stones sitting up here in this beautiful little comms box, Jared, rather than being strapped into a Gen 3 supercar trying to, make those decisions on the fly. That's not to say that, Lorne didn't hit him. Like, I'm not going to try and step out and make all the excuses for Lorne. Just to say that I'm probably a little bit surprised.
Let's take one final look at that one before we move on. I'm going to take the actual cockpit view that Lorne McKee would have had on the way through here. So this is, granted, the field of view is a little bit stretched from what he's probably got set, but there's no time there at all to make a decision once he pulls out from behind set. That is that's a rough place to find yourself.
It is, and to be fair, Jared, one of the things is that you're not always looking straight out the front. Lorne would have been looking at Sips, making sure that he was, getting up to the point that he needed to make the pass, or does he need to brake a little harder and pull the pin, all of those things. But I guess the flip side is he was the one who chose to go to the left. He was the one who ended up running into Sips, and Sips lost time for it. At the end of the day, the penalty's been handed. He has had to serve it, and thankfully for him, he's still got 20 laps to try and recover.
Yeah, still some time to get a few points back, a few places as well. Michael Stewart cannot find a way past Stephen Varga here at the moment. Has been stuck just a couple of tenths back for a good number of laps now. We're getting towards 20 laps to go, and just behind them, I believe that's Lorne McKee, who's just a lap down now. It is, and yeah, he'll be staying right out of that one. Stewart having another look at the inside, just doesn't have the pace, but really wants to try and pressure Varg into making an error here under brakes. Varg's cool, calm and collected as always. Just quite happy to keep running on through these turns and keep himself out in front in the Quantum Racing entry. By Michael Stewart. Cruises along in ninth, just trying to figure out how on earth he's going to get past.
Yeah, skill and determination is probably what he needs right about now.
You can see he's got a lot of extra pace on the exit there, and Vargs does hold the inside just a little bit longer. Stewart's had enough. He's going to pull into the pits and try and find himself some clean air. Picks up a slowdown going over that grass strip. Not surprising, but that'll clear itself on the way in to pit lane. Scott Gamble and Dan Hall now battling it out for fourth. The two Evolution Racing teammates just working together a little bit here, I'm sure, as they get around. Dan Hall on the fresher tyres, but both of these guys will be thinking about another pit stop sometime soon. Gamble gets a good run onto the back straight coming out of Atwood Curve, so he'll take a look at the inside. I would hope they're having a chat about who's going to take this corner. And it looks like Dan Hall's going to make room for Scott Gamble to continue on through. Yeah, Stewart's just picked up a black flag. Is that a pit speeding infringement?
It's got to be. Yeah, he's in pits at the moment and seems to be sitting there for quite a little while. I reckon that's an entry speeding violation, Jared.
These guys are really, they're really pushing it tonight. To see a couple of pit lane violations is pretty unusual for this group. You don't generally see that happen. I know they push the limits of it,
no,
but
he's now departing pits with that black flag still showing. I wonder whether it's an incident count black flag, Jared, which does require a drive-through to be served.
It looks as though it's cleared on the exit, so...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it looks like he's had a stop and hold, spent a minute and 4 in the pit bay. So that
sounds like that's what
that'll do it. That'll do it, absolutely. I might just go back and take a look at his pit entry here, see if it's obvious. Always looking for that puff of smoke from the brakes as the driver realises very late on the entry, oh geez, I'm not going to make it down to the pit speed limit by the cones.
You know what? If you go back and watch that entry again, Jared, I wonder whether he got an unsafe entry for running over the grass on the way in.
Does iRacing hand those out? I've never seen it. Because he did pick up an off-track. He absolutely did pick up an off-track there, so that would be it. 100%.
Yeah, and you'll do the same thing. You'll get an unsafe exit on the way out as well if you run over the blend line before the end of the pit road. So,
that's where
I reckon
that
he's gone all the way out and he's actually touched the fog line of the racetrack. So I would be willing to make a bit of a bet there that that's an unsafe pit entry.
Yeah, I did see the off track come up, so that would make absolute sense. You'd be spewing though, wouldn't you?
Yep.
It's a tough one.
It's frustrating.
And the penalty that you land for is significant, right? 40 seconds stop and hold.
40 seconds. It's the same as speeding. I think that a 40-second stop and hold for speeding in pit lane is also wild. You break a speed limit by next to nothing on the way in, and you get held for 40 seconds. That's half a lap, Jared. It's a pretty big, it's a pretty big penalty for a pretty small mistake.
Can I pose a viewpoint on that though? And it's something for you to think about at home here as well, folks. See what you reckon about this this hypothesis, if you will. We are racing in Australian Gen 3 supercars. Is there anything more Australian than some exorbitant speeding infringement penalties?
I didn't know where you were going to go there for a second, Jared, but I do like it. I do like it.
You can keep that one, mate. That's a freebie.
No, that's good. That's good. These guys too, pit lane, only got to slow down to 72, I think it is, here at Okayama.
Such a specific number.
At the bend.
Oh, the bend.
I think that it would be related to some sort of miles. Yeah, the bend, you've got to get all the way down to 40 kilometres an hour. Which is a hell of a
just
challenge.
about slipping the clutch in first gear.
Slide.
Look at Gamble go.
Scotty Gamble, he is doing his very best. I reckon, I'll put money on it, Jared. There's a highlights package getting sent tonight off to Movie World to join the stunt driving team that they've got in that little production there they do at Movie World.
Well, he's going to
lap 37. He has in lap 37. That's a pretty aged set of tyres now. He'll be looking to come in, but goodness gracious, if they weren't worn out, he is rapidly accelerating that process.
So what, the fresh set of tyres will help. Michael Stewart back in 23rd position after that unfortunate sequence of events has just set the fastest lap of the race, 1:31.85. Which really just goes to show the evolution of the track as more and more rubber gets laid on the surface, just the extra bit of assistance that gives in terms of grip for these drivers.
It's a lot of fun, coming, you come through the race and the track just grips up more and more and more, and your times, like the cars just feel nicer and nicer and nicer to drive. It's really good fun.
Have a look at this. 3 Angry Birds in a row. Vigar, Sattler and Vigar. It's not often we've actually seen this happen this season where we've got a few team cars running in a line like this. We'll take it in. It's not a bad shot as we look back towards Atwood Curve down the back straight here at Okayama. Chad Vigar, Peter Sattler, Rick Vigar out in front. The 3 Angry Birds racing entries supported, of course, by AA West Automotive. Vigar's own little business in the hometown there for him. Having a bit of a mental blank on the region that I'd call it, so I apologise, Rick. I should know this stuff off the top of my head, but it always escapes me. We see Sattler jump on out of the way, and the 2 Vigars carry on. Lap 38 of 54, and it looks as though Wayne Walker has made his second stop and back out in 5th place, which is, look, that's pretty far up the order for coming out the other side of a pit stop.
It is. There's no doubt about that. Just having a bit of a look at AA West Automotive is out towards Windsor. There you go, out Western Sydney, Joe.
Yeah, I keep going to say Mulgrave, and I don't know why.
Because it's in Mulgrave.
There you go. I retract everything I said, Rick. No apologies. I do remember where it is. Of course, Mulgrave means nothing to me as a born and bred Brisbane boy. It's just all Sydney to me down there, mate.
McGrath's Hill is technically where it is, but it's McGrath's Hill, Mulgrave. They're separated by about 350 metres. So, I think you've nailed it well enough. Northwestern Sydney, no doubt about that. We see here 2 Fishy cars. Yeah, absolutely. I've got a slightly different camera angle running on my iRacing, Jared, and I'm here to tell you there was just ever so slightly a touch between Jamie Dyke and Jamie McKnight there. So the 2 Jamies having a bit of fun, and Jamie Dyke now pulls out, and once again, I expect that we'll see a little bit of team chatter going on. We saw the nose dip on McKnight's car far earlier than Jamie Dyke, so I expect that they were chatting away, and Jamie McKnight was pretty happy just to let Jamie Dyke through and get back about his charge.
I think with most of the field fairly spaced out now, it's a pretty good opportunity for us to just have a quick whip through. There's a bit of end of season fun, let's say. Let's go through and take a look at the whole field and make sure that we've seen everyone here tonight up close, and we'll work our way from the back of the field at the moment going forwards. Brad Grant, of course, not starting the race, so unfortunately, Brad, I can't get you on. But David Logsdale, look, he's been around all season. Team AJR have had their ups and downs throughout this season. It's not been perhaps as successful as they would have hoped, but David Logsdale probably copying the worst of it, I'd say, through this season. But I have no doubt he'll be back again next season and looking to improve. So always good to see the Team AJR entries. They're one of the most professional looking liveries in this pack, I reckon.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. And I think, there's a couple of guys here that we'll have a look at, down the back, Jared, that really do show that not everything is about, winning. These guys come along, they race every single week. They still do a bloody good job. These cars are probably the hardest cars on iRacing to drive, certainly out of the cars that get driven pretty regularly, and certainly out of anything that's considered modern. And these guys turn up every single week. They give it their absolute best. They do a damn good job, Jared, to be fair, and they're not the fastest in the world, but, really this is about having a bit of fun on a Tuesday night, and I hope that these guys are having an absolute ball, because it's a pleasure to have them here, and always a nice reminder that you don't have to be the fastest in the world to have plenty of fun.
Craig Rose has a bit of a moment there. What's happened just after we look away from David Logsdale? No, I have to
I just saw in the background Logsdale had a bigger moment.
I have to apologise because this is probably my fault, Dave, for looking at you at all on camera. That's my bad, mate. So we carry on. Craig Rose from Quantum Racing in amongst it. Ashley Hall, the privateer for his first season. Look, full credit to him. Same goes for all of these guys, showing up each and every week. And let's be clear, the best laps we're seeing here at the back end of the field are still, in the 34s here at Okayama. And look, I'm not a quick driver by any means, but I can hold my own okay at times. I'm a good couple seconds slower than you, Mr. Harris, of course. I reckon I'd still be a good couple seconds slower than these guys in the Gen 3 Supercar around here, which just goes to show the competitiveness up towards the front of the field. Todd Martin, another Quantum Racing entry that's been around all season, had a couple of decent results show up along the way. Not playing out that way for him here tonight at Okayama. Andrew Johnston, another of the Team AJR entries. They're a little hard to differentiate. I'm going to have to talk to them about, I don't know, changing up the blue on the back or something like that, but I don't think I'll ever convince them. It looks too good. Just looks too good.
Well, you see, Andrew Johnson does have the boss written across the bonnet of his car as the namesake of Team AJR, so you can definitely tell he's a part.
Yeah, totally fair. Lorne McKee, we've seen a little bit tonight and has had a bit of a rough run for Accelerate Sim Racing, of course. And then James Hardy, another of the Quantum entries, always easily visible on track in the blue and yellow. Michael Stewart, look, has had a couple of pit lane penalties handed to him tonight, if my count's right. But I'll hand it to 9.5. The colour combo that they've brought on this livery this season, really big fan of it. The orange and black with the white up the centre looks absolutely spot on, and I'm just kind of filing that away in the back of my brain somewhere for next time I do a personal livery to consider that kind of a colour combo. Ken Ladder just ahead. Also seen plenty of him tonight with the fishy livery going on. Phil Manuel and Rick Vigo getting into it. So we'll take a look at both of these guys at once, because they're going side by side right now. The battle for 19th. Vigard just holding on from Manuel, who did get ahead of him for just the briefest of moments through the hairpin. As we go through the twin hairpins now, Vigard established that in front. Big moment there for Phil Manuel. Just pulls it back into line. This is probably our fault for looking at him, Josh.
The most Gen 3 of moments to Jared. There's probably nothing more Gen 3 than that.
No, absolutely not. Troy Sipple not too far ahead of Vigard right now. And of course, Rick Vigard and Troy Sipple, some of the two major names behind the ASR league, and always in amongst it, trying to keep the place running smoothly as best they can. Peter Sattler, Angry Birds, trying his best right now to latch on and get past Simon Farrington just up ahead. Who's another we've seen a bit of this season, the Southern Cross Racing entry. One of the few liveries that's really, really easy to pick out. You see the Wizard written up the side. Here's a big bit of oversteer on the way out of Atwood Curve. As he keeps on going. Scott Mackay further up, just entering the hairpin in the Evolution Racing Team entry. Those cars always looking pretty bloody good. And Mick Clifton finds himself in 14th right now for Accelerate Sim Racing with another colour variant on their livery. Mark Poynton, probably about as identifiable as Simon Farrington, I reckon, Josh. The Frog Leap Juice Racing entry stands out a fair way in amongst this crowd.
Yeah, absolutely it does. Anything that mixes dark and bright colours is always going to stand out, and Mark Poynton has done a particularly good job at catching our eyes. There's no doubt about that.
One of these days I'm going to have a look at what exactly that decal is that he's running in the darker section. It's a collection of various shapes. I want to know what it actually is. I might have to flick him a message at some point and figure it out, because those always come up pretty well. And I'm a fan.
It does.
And yeah,
considering how much detail there is, it always looks good.
Yeah, always does. Always does. Jamie McKnight, of course, the man we spoke about earlier, not only getting around in the fishy colours here, but also providing the fixed setups for this race series as he tries to tack on
just
to
quietly, Jared.
Bowman.
Jamie McKnight, mid-season colour change from a flat orange to a metallic goldy orange. Big ups to that. I think that looks absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, there is not enough use of metallic spec maps in iRacing. The pro livery builders use it a fair bit, of course, but yeah, you know what stands out the most to me on his car? Yes, you're absolutely right. The metallic orange over the flat is really nice, but the chrome pinstriping to separate the colorways just pops so nicely on these fishy cars. And a big shout out, if I'm not mistaken, these liveries done by our good mate Isaac.
Yeah, that's all of the fishy liveries. I'm not sure whether if it's down to the colour. They may have someone in the team that can change the colours, but certainly that base design, that is an Isaac special. So Index Designs is who you're looking for if you are interested in a livery and like the look of those fishy cars.
Yeah, look, I will back that any day of the week, because they look bloody good every time. Jamie Dyke doing everything he can to hold off Dan Hall at the moment, just jumping forward to check this out as we make our way up through the field. Jamie Dyke, Dan Hall and Scott Gamble all in shot there. We'll come back to them in a sec as we take a quick look here at Alistair Bales and Damon Fisher from XCM and Team AJR respectively. On their way down to the hairpin, hard under brakes. And Bales, the lone entry for XCM, he's been surrounded by team entries throughout this season, but really acquitting himself well. Hasn't had the top end results yet, but certainly in amongst the top 10 pretty regularly. So looking forward to some real good stuff from him next season if he returns. Damon Fisher just ahead. Of course, we've seen him racing for Team AJR for some time now, and always in amongst it, the shark you can see on the bonnet there. Further forward, Andrew Rushworth, another of the Accelerate Sim Racing entries. Very similar sort of look to Mick Clifton, which doesn't confuse me at all, Josh, I'm sure.
Different coloured wheels, mate. That's all you need.
Yeah, that's all you need. Yes, absolutely. I'm very glad I've got telemetry screens. I'll say that much. Chad Vigard just up ahead. We saw him earlier in the Angry Birds trio. And of course, Stephen Varga up in 6th at the moment. Has had a fairly quiet season compared to what we've seen from him in previous ones. And I think we'll probably see him starting to bounce back. He's certainly lifted his results over the past few rounds as he comes to grips a little further with this car. Whips it through the hairpin and then it starts his way down through this technical section. Scott Gamble, of course, needs no introduction. He's been right in amongst it, mixing it up the front with Wayne Walker, as we find him with Dan Hall and, of course, Jamie Dyke, who we were looking at just before. Dean Logsdale, switching to 9.5 Sim Sport early on this season from Team AJR. He's been out there in the green and black colours since then, and always finds himself in the mix somewhere up the front, bar any incidents. So doing well as Dean Logsdale. Always good to see him getting some results. And looking forward to seeing what he might come up with next season. And of course, at the front, none other than Wayne Walker, currently sitting with a 9-second lead over Logsdale as we enter the last 10 laps. We're down to about 8 laps to go here, folks. It's been a great season, and just from our perspective here at Simple, a massive thank you as always to ASR and all of the drivers for allowing us to be part of it. You know, and choosing to work with Simple Racing Broadcast. There's plenty of options out there for broadcast providers, so always a pleasure to be the one that does get the Guernsey, so to speak.
Yeah, it's always a lot of fun to be here, Jared. I have certainly thoroughly enjoyed my time, and you know, I think I've said it a couple of times, but it's a pretty privileged position to be here and to get to talk about the job that these guys do, because it is absolutely phenomenal week in, week out.
Yeah, it's hard to. I find it hard to wrap my head around sometimes. Just the quality that we see in this field. You know, these guys dedicate so much time to this craft. I don't think people often give it the kind of respect it deserves, as we see Point and Orman now going side by side out of hairpin. Orman's going to find himself on the inside of these two turns, pushes Point all the way out over the edge of the track, and solidifies his spot up into 12th now. Point will want to take that one back. Orman covers the inside just a little. Point will be thinking about how he sets up to have another crack at that. And you can see the race starting to come back to a few of these guys. We had a good amount of separation between pretty much all of the cars not so long ago. Now all of a sudden people are starting to lift the pace a little and start to put pressure on the next driver up in the hopes of gaining just that extra position. It doesn't look like it's going to be Scott Gamble's night in terms of a late and surprising championship victory, but it would be really hard to take it away from Wayne Walker at this point after the season that he's had. Dyke, Hall and Gamble all locked in it in the battle for third place here, though, in this final round. Mark Poynton gets the move done out of turn 1. And as they make their way into the Moss S, Orman's got the inside again, but Poynton will be set up for the inside of Atwood Curve. This will be really interesting. Watch them go side by side here. What does Orman do? Is he going to try and outbrake him, or they're just going to sit side by side the whole way through? A little bit of a panel rub there as they both fight for position. That's going to cost Orman some pace. As he gets back in behind Poynton and then just up the road as well.
Cars absolutely everywhere, Jared. And what a battle between Poynton and Allman. That's, I've alluded to that a couple of times already this race, where, out of that turn 1, turn 2, you've got that run down through the Moss S. One thing that I will say, Jared, it is one thing to get through the Moss S flat out when you're on your own. It is absolutely doable. Doing it side by side presents a pretty significant challenge.
Yeah, it absolutely does. It's bloody terrifying, I'll be honest. I've raced a few times here in primarily GT4s personally, and I can tell you right now, particularly given that they're not league races where you know the people you're racing with, they're official sessions with anyone and everyone who might have an iRacing subscription and a fairly similar kind of iRating to you. I have an absolute preference for backing out early and tucking in behind through the Moss S rather than ending up alongside someone at Atwood. I think if you can, particularly in those sort of environments, it's a much safer bet to rate your exit on the way out of Atwood Curve and trust that that's going to get it done by the end for the hairpin, rather than trying to go side by side through Atwood.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. It's pretty fun though.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, look,
100%.
Start right up and go too wide through the Moss S. There's no doubt about that.
And this is the thing, right? You know, you do an official session here with iRacing, and a lot of the race sessions are only a 15 or 20 minute session. You know, you don't have a lot of time to get to know the style of the drivers around you. You might pick up a few weak points here and there that you'll attack to try and get a position or whatever, but you don't really get a feel for, you know, how aggressive they're going to be if you are side by side. As we see a big moment there for Damon Fisher, gets a rear loose. This is going to be Jamie McKnight's opportunity to make something of this as we come down towards the last turn here and they head back onto the main straight. And McKnight's going to have a pretty good run, you would think, down to turn one. Defensive there from Fisher. McKnight follows. Not going to be there in time, but he's going to try and set this up for Atwood, I'm sure. It's the sort of thing you just don't have a lot of time to do in officials, to get to know the way someone races, and to race door to door with somebody does require a certain amount of trust in not only their level of aggression, I suppose, in racing, but also their car control. It's the sort of thing that, you know, is a lot more fun when you're racing with people that you do race week in, week out in these leagues, because you can just have a bit of faith that they're not going to do something silly.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, even in these leagues, there are people that you form, you know, battles with, and people that you maybe don't trust as much as others. But it's one of the things that I love most about racing leagues, is that it is the same people every week. And, you know, when you have a battle with someone this week, you know that you can come back to it next week and have another go. As we do jump on board with Jamie McKnight and just watch this wheel work. 50 laps in, Jared. Two things have happened by this point. First of all, plenty of rubber down on the track. Track's probably feeling as nice as it's felt all night. Secondly, though, these tyres are a long way into this third stint, and we can see it there. Fisher has a big moment on the way out there, but we do jump forward. Jamie Dyke has ran wide in Atwood. That is not like Jamie Dyke at all. I really thought that we were about to get to watch an absolutely fantastic little race between Gamble, Hall and Dyke, and unfortunately Dyke just pushed a little bit too hard there in the Atwood, ran wide and let the two Evolution Racing Team cars through. So a bit of a shame there, but nonetheless it was a pretty cool race up until that point.
There's still plenty of battles going on right throughout this field as we go back to the battle for P19, really at this point, with Ken Latta, Vigar and Stewart. I don't know if we count Sipple and Farrington as part of this, but sure, why not? Let's talk battle for 17th. Farrington and Sipple in their own little battle at the head of this, but Latta, Vigar and Stewart not too far behind as they make their way through the Moss S's. And this is probably the closest pack battle we've got going on at the moment. Stewart still trying his best to recover whatever he can from the couple of discrepancies that he's had, indiscretions even. Wow, it's English is not my friend this evening, folks. I do apologise. Stewart looks up the inside. He's just going to push this. Absolutely, just barges on through. Rick Vigar has to stay wide to avoid too much contact, and Michael Stewart up into P20.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes you just have to get a little bit aggressive. It's late in the race, and if you're faster than the car in front and they don't want to move, sometimes you just have to gently move them out of the way in just the right way to make things happen. And that was a really good example of a move like that, Jared. You know, where we did see Vigar get shifted out of the way, but didn't cost him any time, and just meant that Stewart could get back on about, you know, moving forward in this race and trying to run down Ken Latta.
And that's the sort of thing that you'd very rarely try on in an official. You know, we talk about the leagues. Great shot there of the two Team AJR cars. And g'day, Brad Hayes. Hope you're doing well, mate. you try that on in an official race, and someone's just as likely to turn you for daring to put a move on. You know, you just you don't have that same level of trust.
Yeah, no, absolutely, you're right. But that is the joy of these leagues races. These guys have been racing together for seasons and seasons now. By this point, not just in these Tuesday nights for the last 9 weeks, as we see there. Ken Ladder, those tyres are absolutely screaming out at the end of this race, and that has probably invited Stewart back into it straight away. Jared, he will be able to start to look at a move pretty quick, I think.
Yeah, at this stage you've got to think that Farrington's kind of holding this whole group together at the moment, just quick enough that Sips can't quite get the move done, but just a little too slow to keep the gap to the likes of Ladder and Stewart at the back of the pack here. Both very, very quick drivers in their own right, and so we've got a nice little 5-way battle going on for 17th, which is not what I expected to see this close to the end of 54 laps.
Oh, we see Ladder diving into the pits.
Now that's interesting. Is Ladder running that low on fuel perhaps? Because he's already got 2 pit stops up, but was one of those a drive-through, and is this his second required stop? Perhaps.
Well, possibly. What it possibly was, Jared. I believe that it was lap 27 that he was spun from memory, and so it may be that he filled up at that point when he had all the damage from being spun by Stewart, and just hasn't quite had the fuel to get home.
It's a real shame, isn't it? Like, that's, as a driver, that's the worst feeling, to get to just a couple of laps to go and realise, you're not going to make it. It's painful. I mean, it's not going to...
he would have known that it was coming, which I guess, makes it feel a little better.
Even then, though, you kind of... You hope, don't you? You hope that you've done enough staying in the draft and coasting and, short shifting to try and claw back just enough. I mean, 54 laps around a fairly short circuit here. You're not going to save a huge amount of fuel, but maybe it'll just be enough to get around. And, to get to the end of lap 51 and need to come in for just a quick splash and dash, and we can see Ken Ladder was only in the pit box for 6 seconds. So really, I mean, what's that? About 2 litres says that's about 12 litres of fuel, maybe.
It's not a huge amount.
It's not much, no. It's not much at all, as we see Sipple finally gets a move done on Farrington.
No, he's taking both of them off the track.
They both run off there. Let's go back and take another look then, because I thought for a moment that Sips had got the move done. Let's watch this down the straight.
I'm pretty sure that Sips just blows the braking area, and Farrington has to run wide so that he doesn't get taken with him.
Oh, just massive understeer. Huge understeer from Troy Sipple. Couldn't get it turned in. And there's that late race desperation for one extra spot, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And then entirely redecorating the racetrack with some kitty litter. So that'll be a shock for the guys when they get around there next time.
That it will. Wayne Walker, just over the halfway point of the final lap now. He's got to cruise home from here. 8 seconds back to Dean Logsdale. What a drive. What a season. Absolute champion effort right through. Wayne Walker, a very, very deserving winner here tonight. Not only of round 10 at Okayama, but also the season 5 championship. And very much earning that #1 spot once again for next season. It was a pretty close run thing with Matt Vanderkraan last season. This season, absolutely no contest.
Yeah, Scotty Gamble put up a pretty valiant effort, but Wayne Walker has been reasonably dominant this year or this season, and he absolutely deserves to hold that #1 on the car for another run around.
Absolutely does. As Dean Logsdale comes home P2 in the final race of the season. Great effort from Dean Logsdale for 95 Sim Sports. Scott Gamble and Dan Hall coming home in third and fourth respectively for Evolution Racing Team, and Jamie Dyke, a very commendable fifth place finish right where he started, 54 laps to go. Stephen Varga gets home in sixth for Quantum Racing, a really solid effort from him, as Andrew Rushworth comes through just ahead of Chad Vigar, only a half second in it in the end. Vigar comes home in eighth, and then Jamie McKnight finds himself all alone, just enjoying a bit of clean air back here, with Mark Point not too far behind though. As we see the rest of the field now starting to come on through. There's McKnight. Mark Poynton comes through ahead of Damon Fisher and Alistair Bales. Then Luke Allman and Mick Clifton coming home in 14th, up 3 from where he started. Scott Mackay gets 15th ahead of Peter Sattler in 16th, as we wait for Sattler to round that final bend. Michael Stewart in the end finishing down in 17th after a horror finish to his season here tonight. Rick Vigar coming home in 18th, up a few spots as well. Simon Farrington finishes in 19th ahead of Troy Sipple, who rounds out your top 20. Phil Manuel finishes 21st, 22nd for James Hardy, and Lorne McKee is a fair way back in 23rd as we wait for the official results to roll through. And Josh, you want to take us through these for the last race of the season?
Yeah, absolutely. Wayne Walker out in front, absolutely dominating. Jared, we didn't see him on the track very much at all tonight. And the reason for that is because he was just in a league of his own. Dean Logsdale has a fantastic race and probably one of his best of the season to come in second. Scotty Gamble rounding out the podium. Daniel Hall, Jamie Dyke, Steve Varga, Andrew Rushworth, Chad Vigar, Jamie McKnight and Mark Poynton round out the top 10. Couple of really good results there for a few guys that probably haven't had the best season. Damon Fisher, the lead team, AJ Arkar in 11th, Alistair Bales, Luke Allman, Mick Clifton, Scott Mackay rounding out the 15, Peter Sattler down in 16th, Michael Stewart for 9-5 Sport in 17th, Rick Vigar in 18th, leading home, Simon Farrington and Troy Sipple rounding out your 20.
Let's go to the comms booth. Because we've got a few of the drivers starting to make their way in for a little bit of a chat. So we might start with third place tonight, and Scott Gamble joins us in the booth. Scott, a great way to finish off your season. Congratulations, first of all, on P3. We thought for a moment there that it was going to be a battle all the way to the line with Jamie Dyke, but upward curve proving the undoing of yet another driver and letting both yourself and Dan Hall get through.
Yeah, how you going, Jared? Yeah, it was a tough one. I blew the start there and went back to P8, and, you know, it's so difficult with fixed sets and, you know, same weather conditions and these cars in particular, to pass someone, you know, to get that pass, especially if they're putting it in the right spot. So it was very difficult at the start. You know, and so a little bit of fuel save mode. But, you know, towards the end it heated up, and like you said, you know, we started pushing Dykey, and, you know, I said to Dano, we'll get lap 5 and then it's on, mate. You know, so I didn't want to pressure him so he could put the pressure on Dykesy, and, you know, he put enough pressure on that he made the mistake, and I guess we got through. You know, Dan sort of followed him a little bit, but we were able to get through, and, you know, it was a good result for us, you know, gaining an extra position each.
Oh, sorry, I've just had a brief moment here. Yeah, look, a good result overall for ERT, of course, for the season. We did some math tonight, mate. You weren't entirely out of the running for P1 for the championship, but it did look pretty unlikely. What's it been like chasing Wayne Walker for most of this season, mate? I imagine it must feel like a pretty uphill slog a lot of the way, because he's just been unbelievably quick.
Yeah, look, he's been really fast, you know, and he's won the second race a lot. So when you actually look at the statistics, yeah, I think he's won like maybe 2 more races, but he's predominantly won the second race where there's more points on offer. So perhaps that's something that they could look at, because I love the way they do their format, but they should make each race equal points, and then you'd have people fighting more for it instead of focusing on the second race where you get far more points. But anyway, irrelevant. Wayne absolutely drove superbly. And, I'm not disappointed with coming to P2. This is my first season back after a major heart attack. Like, I nearly died. So I had that season off, and then this is my first season back properly racing again. So, I'm not too... I'm pretty happy where I'm at with it, and to be able to still match it with the top 5 or even the top 10 guys in this league and within vets, I'm pretty happy to do that. So that's been, I'm pretty happy.
Mate, I reckon you should be. That's a pretty decent effort considering what you're bouncing back from. P3 tonight, P2 overall. Scott Campbell, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you along all season and to get to chat to you a few times throughout. Certainly looking forward to seeing you maybe back again for season 6. You getting in on the Bathurst 1000 action later in September? That's the only question I've got left.
Yeah, I am. I'm teaming up with Scotty Mackay from ERT. We've put our entry in, and we're looking forward to that. There'll be a lot of Bathurst going on. Maybe there might be, a Pro Series Bathurst in there as well that I'll have to focus on. Really looking forward to that. I'll be back next season. Will I be doing as much on the sim? Probably not, mate. I've just bought a boat, right? So I'm going to go fishing. Like, why wouldn't, so anyone local wants to come out and hang out for a day, come fishing with me. But, so I'll be doing a bit of that, mate, and fitting the sim in where I can thereafter. But, to thank people, thank you very much, Jared, Josh. You guys have been an absolute cornerstone cement in the broadcast room. Really appreciate the work you do. Well done to Wayne. He's deserving of a champion, and he should be called a champion. Congratulations, mate. And well done to Dean as well. He drove extremely well, and to get his P2, he'd be absolutely chuffed being an Englishman with that. So if you do Englishmen use chuff, I don't know. But anyway, well done to him. Congratulations. And, thanks, Dan. That was awesome fun. And Dikey, really enjoyed it. It was a good battle.
Always a pleasure to watch, mate. We'll let you get back to it. Thanks again for dropping by, and congrats on a fantastic season.
See you guys.
Scott Gamble takes a P2 in the overall championship. We'll have a chat now to P2 on the night, though.
Yo.
Dean Logsdale, welcome to the booth, mate. It's been a big season, and some good results for you throughout, mixed with a bit of pain here and there, but tonight coming home in second place must feel pretty good as a way to finish off season 5.
Yeah, definitely. I've had a bit of a rough season, bit of a rough go at it with this league, but great way to finish. Very happy.
Mate, as you should be. And look, we've seen plenty of pace from you all season. It just hasn't quite seemed to have fallen your way in a few of those races. But tonight really showing off what you're capable of and looking very, very strong, making the top 10 by our numbers in the championship standings despite all of that. So a pretty decent showing in amongst some stiff competition otherwise, mate. And I've got to hand it to you for that, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm a firm believer of making your own luck, and I didn't make any this season, that's for sure. But definitely a good way to end. And congratulations to Wayne. He's been untouchable most of the season. That's the closest I've ever been to him. So he's super fast, and a bit unlucky for Scotty there to light it up on the start, because I'm sure he would have been in the mix right up the front too. So it was a good race.
Well, it does sound like I can probably count on your signature when I start a petition in the ASR Discord to add a couple 100 kilos of weight penalty to Wayne Walker next season. What do you reckon?
Yeah, that's definitely got to happen. I think he just cruises around, to be honest. But he's an awesome driver and a nice bloke too.
Doesn't hurt either, mate. A great season despite all the hiccups, and a great way to finish. Are we seeing you into the Bathurst 1000 on September 21st?
Yes, so I'm actually going to enter. I've done a couple of these endurance races with Luke Ullman. So he was my teammate last year, and he's a great driver, and we have a bit of fun. So I'm looking forward to that with Luke for sure.
I can't wait to take a look at it. Before we let you go, Dean, anyone you want to say hello to, give a shout out to? We've had plenty of support for AJR in the chat as always.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Michael Stewart. He was unlucky today. It was his turn to have the bad luck. But he should have been right up the front too. He's got the pace. Shout out to the whole team in 95 Sim Sports and our sponsors, Racecraft, RSW Graphics, Track School, Track Days and Racing Ears, and all the drivers in the league and all the guys that put it on, and yourself for putting on a great show.
Always a pleasure. Dean, thanks so much for dropping by. It's been great to get to chat to you a few times this season, and hopefully quite a few more to come in season 6, and of course Bathurst 1000 ahead of us. We'll let you get back to it, but congrats again tonight on the results. Very, very well deserved. A quality drive.
Thank you guys, appreciate it. See you at Bathurst.
Absolutely will. Dean Logsdale there wraps up P2 tonight, and really there's only one man left to talk to tonight. The winner, of course, of tonight's race, but also season 5 champion Wayne Walker joins us in the booth. Mate, welcome on back. It's great to have you with us again, Wayne.
Yeah, thank you. That was a good race and good season too. Like all the, there's a lot of good drivers in this series now. So to win it again and for the second season in a row, that was awesome.
Yeah, we were talking to Scott Gamble just a little earlier, and look, there was not good odds on it, but he did have a chance to take the title from you tonight. It all kind of faded away pretty quickly by the end of lap 1 when we realised that it was looking pretty unlikely that he was going to take P1 and you were going to finish lower than 18th for that to happen. So we were pretty confident you were going to hang on to it. But from your perspective, that race, I don't think we saw you much from the get-go. You kind of hung around for the first few laps and then just put on 10th after 10th after 10th through every corner. Okayama treating you well here tonight? Is it a favourite track? Is it just that you found your rhythm, or just got a bit lucky with some clean air?
No, I do like this track. But yeah, for the first few laps, I was still pushing, but trying to save tyres, not overheat them, and then probably maybe 10 laps into the race, I sort of started pushing from there on, and still Dean, I wasn't pulling away from Dean that quick, so he was driving really good too.
Yeah, some solid pace, absolutely. We've seen that pretty regularly from him this season, honestly, and good to see him get the result. But for you out in front, mate, what a way to cap off season 5. It's been a really dominant performance right throughout. We've spoken to you so many times this season. It feels like you've got pretty much a third seat here in the comms booth that we just set aside for you a lot of the time, Wayne. Anyone you want to say hello to or give a shout out to in terms of the support you've had over the season to make it all happen?
Yeah, just want to thank the league, everyone who helps run it, Race Control, you guys for the broadcast. You do an amazing job every week. All the other competitors, without them it's not possible. Congratulations to Dean and Scott on the podium tonight. Our sponsors, Abbey Timber, Primal Wheels, Box and Lock Narang, Modern Deck, and all my teammates from Accelerate Sim Racing for all their help and support as well. And probably my wife as well. She said she was watching tonight, so thank her for her support as well.
For sure. Mate, always great to chat to you. Last question before we do let you go and celebrate the championship and the win in the final round. Bathurst 1000 just ahead. We're 3 and a bit weeks away from that, and of course season 6 then only another week and a half or so beyond that. Are we seeing you back for both of those?
Yeah, I'll definitely be there for Bathurst, driving with Greg again, I think, and I should be back for season 6 as well.
Look, we're happy to hear it. I don't know if some of the field will be, knowing that you're going to be back out there with them for season 6, but they got plenty of time to put in some more laps and try and find the pace they need to stick with you in season 6. Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. Congratulations, and thank you so much for putting on just an amazing show for us all here in the broadcast booth, and of course everyone watching at home.
Thank you.
Wayne Walker there, wraps up what has been a pretty amazing season, Josh. It's hard to argue that he earned that number one on the side of the car this season.
No, he's done a fantastic job, Jared. Everyone he has, but I don't think any of them would argue that Wayne's probably been in a league of his own a little bit. So thoroughly deserving of that number one plate on the car, or sticker as it is these days. And personally, I'm really glad that he's coming back. It's always disappointing when the number one doesn't get to have a run. So we'll see him back, and I guess it's just up to the other guys now to spend a couple of weeks, working really hard and go away and practice and see if they can find those couple of tenths that they need to compete with Wayne week in, week out.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of laps, I am sure, but these guys will absolutely be making the time for it. As we take a look at what should be pretty close to the final championship standings, barring any late penalties or inquiries around any of the racing tonight. Mark Poynton sneaks onto the podium at the deaths, just pulls ahead of Ken Latta in the end and wraps up a third place there. Scott Gamble securing, of course, the second spot. A couple of battles that may or may not end up the way that we see them here. Jamie Dyke finishing just 1 point ahead of Andrew Rushworth. I reckon that'll be pretty close, but we'll have to wait for the official wrap-up, of course, to come through on the Discord. Other than that, though, very, very close battles really right throughout the top 20 there, and I hope you've managed to find yourself there, guys, if you are watching this back, as we take a look further down the field from 21st onwards. Quite a few moves from drivers who didn't make it here this evening and have subsequently dropped a few positions, but a whole bunch of names really that we've seen throughout 10 rounds of just more amazing V8 Supercar racing. It's been an absolute pleasure to cover it, but you just cannot fault the performances we've had throughout that top 10 at various stages from all of those drivers. Bit of a shame to see Matt Vanderkraan not make the final round again. He's making a bit of a habit of this season to season now. I don't know if we need to have a word to him about that or what the go is.
Mate, unfortunately for all of us, life gets in the way sometimes.
That it does. Well, that'll be it from us here in the broadcast booth on behalf of Quantum Tint Solutions, AA West Automotive, Nicol Photography, and 24/7 Sim Services. A very big thank you from all of the drivers for your support as sponsors of this season. Couldn't happen, of course, without the sponsorship of those amazing businesses. To everyone at Alliance Sim Racing, a massive thank you from us here at Simple for partnering with us again for another great season of racing. And of course to you, Josh, who's been right here in the booth with me for pretty well all of this season, bar a couple here and there. It's been another cracking one to cover with you, mate, and looking forward to doing it again soon.
No, mate, thank you. On behalf of me, thank you to ASR and to all of the drivers for putting on a fantastic show. I assure you, Jared, I wouldn't keep turning up each week if it wasn't worth my time. And these guys do a really, really good job of making it worth my time. I've had an absolute ball. I hope you at home have enjoyed a little bit of our insight. I hope that I have brought something additional to your Tuesday nights, and I can't wait to be back next season.
Absolutely. So that'll wrap it up for us, folks. The Alliance Sim Racing V8 Supercars Series Season 5 comes to a close here at Okayama. A massive congratulations, of course, to all of the drivers and teams who've made it such a thrilling ride from start to finish. But, of course, it would be remiss of us not to mention you at home watching along and keeping us entertained and going in the chat. We really do appreciate your company each and every week. It does make it look a little more enjoyable here in the broadcast booth if we get to know a little bit of what's going on in your world there at home. And really hoping you'll be back with us, or, of course, if you do need a bit more of a racing fix, we've got plenty of action coming up over the off-season between ASR's seasons here. If you jump on over to the Simple Racing Broadcast channel, you'll find we'll have a few bits and pieces to cover in the off-season across a number of leagues, so do make sure you come and check that out. The racing here, of course, isn't done just yet. Join us, as I said, on September 21st for the crown jewel of the Alliance Sim Racing Endurance Championship, of course, the legendary Bathurst 1000. Can't wait to bring it to you on Sunday the 21st. Until then, though, from all of us here at Simple and on behalf of the ASR team, it's goodbye for now. a bad way to finish it off.
That was pretty good. So the Bathurst 1000